Hi guys, this is my first video. Just going to chat a bit about water cooling, primarily cooling CPU with a typical water block, but also trying to rubbish some of the ideas that water cooling is expensive and elitist. I'm going for a slightly quirky setup using chilled water. I've set this up in a little rig here in my dining room rather than in my study, just to give you guys an idea. A very quick rundown of my rig. I've got a Thermaltake S71 full tower. I've customised it, spray painted it white because I couldn't get it in white. Inside is a Z87 Sabertooth motherboard. I've got an i7 4770K CPU in it. That's what I'm going to be cooling today, along with a few of the little bits and bobs which we'll get to in a minute. The CPU is at stock speed, 3.5 gig. I've tried overclocking on air and it's not very stable, so we'll see where we get with that, but really I'm going to take a look at my slightly peculiar cooling solution. Okay, so the reason why I'm going through all of this is because I'm a building services engineer, so I've got a bit of experience in designing heating, cooling and ventilation systems for commercial buildings. Air and water. Air, a volume of air in this glass, exactly the same as the volume of water in this glass. The difference and the reason why water is a good conductor of heat energy is because this has a specific heat capacity 4 times greater than this. This is 4.1, 4.2 at this temperature. This is about 1. So that's the reason why it's a good medium for getting rid of heat. I'm just going to show you the idea that I've come up with. What we've got here is some chilled water that's been in the fridge all day in an old fish tank that's been cleaned out. It's not a real fish, it's actually a thermometer which is telling us, oh, I can't see that the temperature is about 9 degrees. This is your typical radiator, whatever you want to call it, radiator, heat sink. It's normally used for rejecting heat out of a system, but today we're looking at using it for cooling air that comes into the system. Now, some of the purists are probably going to go, no, careful what you're doing. Don't want condensation on your radiator, you don't want moisture getting into the system, which is true. I've done the calcs as an engineer to know that the water going through there is not going to cause condensation on my coil, effectively, my cooling coil, and we're going to be okay. So what I've got set up here, I don't know whether you'll be able to see or not, is a spare 200mm fan that I've got, a 200mm radiator that I bought, and I've got 2 probes, one here, point your finger on the fan, one down here, so measuring the air on temperature and the air off temperature, blowing this way. It's connected to the motherboard and we've got it on the AI suite on the computer, which is the packaged with the Sabertooth motherboard. So what you can see, well, what you guys can't see, but what I can see on this is that we've got an air on temperature of 17 degrees and an air off temperature of 12, which is spot on, exactly what I want. It says up there on the thermometer that, the thermostat, that it's 20 degrees in the room, so a bit out, but we're there or thereabouts. So what I intend to do eventually is get this into the case. It's cool the air coming in and reject the heat out. What I want to do as well is get my CPU block into the loop and cool all at the same time. Right, so I'm just going to run through a few things that I've got. Phobia UC2 water block, Phobia 200mm radiator, Phobia pump. Pick the pump because it's 800 litres a minute, it's got quite a good flow rate. Large size diameter pipe work, 10mm internal diameter, 16mm outer diameter, so it's 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch, I think. Same with the fittings. You can't really see from there, but I've had this cooling coil running for a little while now. there's no condensation on the coil. It's nice and cold, but it's not. There's no condensation. That's why there's been a bit on this glass. It's come straight out of the fridge. So I'd be confident in using that in my case to cool the air coming in. I'm not advocating you guys do the same unless you do the calcs. I'm not going to be responsible for your systems, but I know what temperature it is in here, what likely humidity it's going to be in the UK. So I've done all those calcs. I'm quite happy with that. So what we're going to do next is going to get the CPU block into the case, and I'm going to show you guys where I'm sticking this thermal store. It's going to go in a fridge. I'm going to have the fridge next to the PC and stick a cold beer in it or something for when I'm gaming. But ultimately, the point I'm trying to prove, 30 quid for the pump, pipe work and fittings, 10 quid each, so 80 quid. And a decent mini fridge. I've got a spare fridge, which I'm not going to use because it's massive, but a decent mini fridge would cost you, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 quid. So all in 150 quid for a completely bespoke, half decent cooling solution. Bearing in mind that you can get a pre-packaged system plug and play for 100 quid, I don't know, Corsair H100i Jobby, whatever it is. This is what I'm doing. So I'm going to get set up. I'm going to set it up in the other room, show you guys how it looks. We'll go from there. Actually, quickly, I'm just going to give you a run through sticking the system together. So, water block. You've got to be really careful with these to make sure on some of them, particularly this one because it's plastic perspex, that the thread on your fittings is no longer the 5mm, so you don't knacker the water block. I've gone for these angled fittings because I've got the thick pipe work. I can't get two straight pieces right next to each other in the water block, they'll clash. So you've got to flush the thing out first, which I haven't done. Get your bits in, and not like that. Oh, and the very last thing, pump. Threaded connections again. Always prime it first, so make sure it's full of water, otherwise you're going to knacker the bearings. People say, oh, it's going to ruin within the first few seconds. I'm sure that's probably not the case, but it's designed to be submerged, so make sure there's water in it before you switch the thing on. This one's got a Molex connection and a fan header connection. I don't know if you need both of them, whether you can speed control it with them both plugged in. In the test setup that I had, I just had the Molex connected, but you know, do whatever you want. Right. Just looking at the CPU fan at the moment. A couple of little tools I've got for making the job easier is a telescopic magnet with a little light on the end, really useful if you drop screws. Just be careful of the sensitive components and stuff. Anti-static wristband, essential, and a head torch is useful just so you can see what you're doing. I'm going to whip the CPU fan out very quickly, so I might want to speed through this bit. Got to take the thermal paste off. That's going to take me a couple of minutes, so I'll come back to you in just a second. Right, so I've just jumped around the back of the case quickly. I've got the CPU fan out and I've put in the threaded screws for the water block mounting. Put in the little plastic washers to just stand it off of the motherboard. Come back to the other side. I've done the same inside. If I get the focus right. So you can hear some little squeaks and things. It's my little boys helping me out. Hello. And yeah, got plastic washers this side and the nuts just holding them in place. So I'm going to get the water block on now. Right, so just turn the case on its side, on its back. I've put thermal paste on the CPU and I've just dropped the water block on the top. Little metal washers in place. I've got 4 springs. There's a really good video on Tasty PC TV on YouTube. That's where I got most of the idea for this from, because, well, sorry, the fitting instructions for this, because there isn't any with the actual unit, so I've got to thank them, I suppose, for the video, for the instructions. Bit of a knackered thread there by the looks of things. That's a good start. Nice background music is my wife playing with my boy. Basically just screw each of these down. Evenly, so the thermal paste that is underneath the block gets spread out evenly. Screw it down just to the point where these these springs are tight but not completely bunched up. Not too bad at all, actually. Right. That's a pretty good fit, I think, so I'm going to get the fittings on there and then we'll start filling it up. So all set up in the spare room. Yeah, I've got the fridge going. I've only just switched that on, so I've just had the kind of room temperature water for a little while. Got the pipe work through the side, running down to the pump, which is, I haven't actually mounted that in the case yet, but I will do eventually. Just at the back there. Pipe loop inside the case, just up to the water block there. Everything's running pretty smoothly, quite pleased with it so far. Just running Prime 95 with real temp. I've only been running it for what, 11-12 minutes, something like that, so I'll leave that running for a good few hours. I did it on air when I first built the computer and everything was stable at the core clock speeds, but I've got this on boost at the moment. I haven't overclocked it yet, but pretty stable, sort of 50 degrees. It did jump up to 81 in the maximums there, but for some reason I had a bit of a blip. I think it was for a couple of seconds and it's come back down again. So running at 4.1 at full whack. Yeah, so we got another what, 50 degrees to the TDP. When I was doing this on air a few weeks back, I was having loads of trouble with reaching the TDP. So basically the point at which the CPU is going to start causing itself some damage if it continuously runs at that temperature. Yeah, so I'm pleased with it so far. It seems to be working. I hope you've enjoyed the video. My obscure but cost-effective cooling solution using a fridge. Thanks guys.